Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Authentic Journey. I'm really excited to have Nicholas Pardini joining us today. Nick is the co-founder and portfolio manager of the Newport Beach-based wealth management firm, Spearhead Advisors. He's also a top voice in global economics and the creator behind the YouTube channel Analyzing Finance with Nick, where he breaks down market trends and global money moves in a way anyone can understand. Nick's built a huge following for his ability for spotting opportunities before they hit the mainstream. He's worked with top investors, built his own research platform, and built his money management practice that continues to shape the way people think about finances and the global economy. I'm thrilled to dive into Nick's authentic journey. Let's get to it. Welcome, Nick. Yeah, no, it's pretty funny. I know it's really who are the people that actually end up dressing up, right? It's
Yeah.
what are the different attires you wear for
Yeah,
different types of careers?
It's lawyers, financial people, generally the ones who dress up for the most part.
Lawyers, financial people, and government employees. If you're in the FBI, you're wearing a suit. If you're in the IRS, you're wearing a suit.
Yeah. Politicians, that's
yeah,
the other
yeah.
one. I mean, I personally don't like ties. I only wear them for weddings and funerals, or if it's some super formal institution I'm meeting with.
Yeah. I'm to the point now where I just dress pretty casual. I mean, at the end of the day, it's there's no. I mean, don't get me wrong. I can dress up a little bit upscale, but it's wearing a suit is I don't work for the IRS.
Yeah.
I don't work for the FBI. I don't need to wear a suit going to work.
Yeah. I mean, I don't wear suits all the time either. I mean, there's this typical finance bro outfit of the Patagonia sweater vest and jeans and the button-up shirt, or in the winter I like my cashmere sweaters. But if I'm going to be the guy who's making content about being an example of avoiding prole drift and living a classier life, it's kind of made me think, maybe I should dress better.
And dress better in terms of?
It's just making myself look more presentable and not just being overly casual all the time.
That's more so you doing that for you.
Yeah. It's more really for me. And I feel just in general, maybe because I grew up as the oldest of 5 siblings, I always feel I had to be a good example to others.
Yeah.
Because they were always looking at watching what I was doing. And now that I have a bigger audience on social media, I feel kind of that same kind of dynamic to a certain degree.
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, you're kind of showing yourself to people. You're being yourself, right? And your following is really getting built off of people who respect you for being you.
Yeah. I say a lot of things that other people are either too afraid or can't verbalize very well.
Yeah. Because it's kind of interesting because as we say, hey, what are we doing to build a following, right? But the thing is the only real way to build a following is just to be as authentic to yourself as you can be. And the people who genuinely like you will follow what you have to say. And the people there's no artificially making it happen type of thing.
Yeah, I think it's especially true in the age of AI, because a lot of the stuff that other people have done, and that's kind of the generic thing, is that can now be created with an LLM, or through for music, there's Suno, for video, there's Sora, and any of these influencers who really just make a living basically being I'm the perfect example of XYZ, and just give you very boilerplate platitudes, are going to be put out of business by the bots.
Well, I saw one of my friends was doing it just for fun. It's all of a sudden he put his face on a New England Patriots quarterback, and all of a sudden he's throwing a touchdown at Gillette Stadium, and it's and the commentator's saying his name, and it's hey, it's a cool video. We obviously know it's AI, but it's there's so many different things you can actually do with AI now, and it's usually AI is going to be so much greater than the real thing as far as videos and footage and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think AI is going to be a great opportunity for those who are enterprising and creative enough to be on the user side of it, and it's going to be a great cause of economic distress for those who are being disrupted by it.
Yeah, and you have all these different fields. It's you have Instagram models are now having to compete with AI Instagram models, and the AI Instagram models, they don't have any limitations as to what can be done. They could be any place at any time wearing anything, and they don't got to book a flight. They don't got to buy clothes. They don't got to work out to get a certain physique. It's they just got to punch in a few things on the keyboard.
Yeah, and if you're trying to sell yourself based on physical appearance now, and particularly looking perfect, that's that's not going to be possible competing against the AI at this point. Like the effort in some of the AI influencer models generate more revenue than real people do.
Yeah, because if you're going for perfection, you're going for AI. So that's why it's like we almost have to, in this day and age, it's like you have to be yourself as much as you could possibly be, and then have people like want you, like you as
Yeah.
for who you are. And it's like, hey, I understand you're human. I understand you're not perfect, but I'm going to decide to follow what you have to say because I like how you deliver this message.
Yeah, and if you offer some insight that just can't be found by running a Chat GPT model or Google searching, like some people have wanted me to make certain content that I could make by doing that kind of thing, but it wouldn't be authentic because what insight am I providing that you can't do by just having a conversation with GPT or Grok?
Yeah. So what is something that you've kind of been working on lately as far as like providing insight and stuff like that?
I've been doing a deep dive on several issues that are going on in the economy and the cognitive dissonance between why do people feel like life is harder than ever it is, but at the same time you see economic data showing that life is easier for a lot of people now than it's ever been. And what is accounting for this mismatch? Why are a lot of people so unhappy about the economy? And why are there certain corners signs data that points to recession? Or on the other hand, you see economic data looking strong and material growth in living standards throughout the world. And that's kind of the question that been trying to address lately on my channel. And depending on when this comes out, it will be whether I've released this video or not. But the long and the short of it is that there's two things. One, different age groups have um, different perceptions of economic prosperity because they're facing different cost structures. If you are somebody who's 55 and never divorced from their first marriage and went to college, you probably are pretty well off right now. You were able to have your career mostly in prosperous times. You were able to save your money without maybe as many catastrophic events, God forbid. And you've already paid off your house. You've already sent your kids to college. You've already kind of went through a lot of the things that the consumption increases that young families have to go through when they start a family. So if you have your investments, so your investments are growing because the stock market's growing and you're collecting a solid income on those, and the consumer prices have lagged those for the most part, you're looking pretty good. And a lot of things that a retiree spends money on, like international travel or like day-to-day hobbies or Medicare protected healthcare, is not gone up that much in price. Well, on the other hand, let's look at the opposite side. Let's say you're a very young single person who was able to go to finish school without much debt or any, and you either don't, the social stigma against living with your roommates until you're a little bit older or with your parents is gone. So you don't really have that big of a cost structure either. If you have either a decent paying job or like a small remote paying business that you can move around, you can also geo arbitrage to cheaper places. Those people are doing pretty well too. That's why the whole digital nomad thing came. But on the other hand, if you're somebody, say, who's like in their 30s or 40s, you're getting married. You're getting married. You are about to have kids, and you want to buy a house, and you want to save for them to college or send them to private school because the quality of public schools has deteriorated in most of the country, particularly here in California. That's a lot more expensive than it used to be. Like the cost of like the stereotypical upper middle class family lifestyle, like having a 2,500 square foot house, 2 to 3 kids, having them go to college without debt, you driving like a entry level or a mid level Mercedes or BMW, going to your gym or like non golf country club membership, all these kind of things that we thought were just kind of like a middle class or slightly above middle class comforts that a lot of people assume they'd get to a certain life. That, as depending where you lived, anywhere from gone up 2.7 to 3 times what they used to be on a real basis. And so while getting by and just doing okay or being a comfortable retiree is easier now than ever, if you want to strive and push from like, I'm just getting by level to I can have the upper middle class childhood that a lot of people are accustomed to, from probably that for my kids, that's a lot more difficult than it has ever been. And buying a house and housing costs are the bulk of that, and also higher taxes, not just because the tax rates have gone up in states. Actually, a lot of states have cut taxes. It's more that because the bracket creep, you need to be in a higher tax bracket now to generate the kind of income you needed, because the expense of having that like idealistic upper middle class life has gone up way more than inflation. And so the combination of really taxes, housing, healthcare, and to a lesser degree education costs, both college and pre-college for children, has made people give up before they even start trying, because they can do the math in their head and like, my income, even myself or if I have a spouse helping me, will never get to that level. So it's really just a product of like how the market has responded to recent like socioeconomic trends, and how the money supply has transmitted the price level of certain assets or certain goods and services above others. And there's a bunch of regulatory factors that too. And then the dissonance between how much easier it was for their parents to do the same thing, I think is causing a lot of this problem. I didn't mean to ramble, but I was just kind of, that's what I've been researching lately.
It's really fascinating stuff. And then you also get it to a point. It's like, what about the people that are wanting to like get married and have kids? Like, that's probably affecting the amount of like kids that are being had, or the amount of marriages that are occurring.
Yeah,
stuff like
birth
that.
rates are going down, marriage rates are going down, or certain people are prioritizing more superficial things in their romantic partners over others because they want to make sure that they can afford the lifestyle, for lack of a better term. But the other thing too is that I was surprised when I did this research is about retirement, because retirement costs I actually think are not as bad as people anticipate, especially if you don't need as much money as you did in your peak earning years. But even if you do want to have like the same average salary of your working years in retirement, you have to save a decent amount of money, but it's not unattainable. Like, I've run a wealth management firm, and one of the first things I talk to a prospective client is I really kind of ask them like, what kind of lifestyle do you want to, if you didn't have to work, and how much would your monthly expenses to get that? And when I run the numbers and I tell them like, look, based on what you've told me and a realistic expectation for returns, you can get there well before 70 years old most of the time, and you can get there even probably if you start young, like in your 20s and 30s, even before 60. And it's more attainable than people think, and you don't have to live in lives of clean austerity. And again, it depends on your income level and what kind of lifestyle you want post-retirement, but you really only need to save about 15 to 20% of your after-tax income to get there. Some people might think that I'm elitist and out of touch for saying that that's even possible to do, but it's doable is the point. Whereas you see a lot of the mainstream media giving the narrative like, oh, nobody will ever be able to afford to retire again because maybe Social Security is insolvent. But my assumptions, I'm assuming you're not going to get a dime in Social Security, or it's going to get inflated away to the point that it won't make a difference to your budget anyway. And it's still doable. So I think people are getting a little bit too discouraged, at least on the retirement side of their financial futures. And I think the housing stuff will ultimately self-correct due to demographic reasons. So even that, I just think the level of pessimism among individuals' futures, even if I think there are some signs of possible recession in the next year or two, the long run is still pretty bright for people who make the priority to have a solid plan of what they're doing and can have the discipline to execute it.
So if you're in college and you're getting ready to graduate, what can you go out and do to ensure that you've got a really stable financial path going forward?
Okay, well, there's a few things you can do. First, this is the most challenging part because AI is really changing things. Like, this is the first time ever in the modern economy where the unemployment rate for recent college grads, 22 to 25, is higher than the same age group for people who didn't go to college. And the reason for that is a lot of LLMs and AI is replacing a lot of entry-level work. Like, say if you run a hedge fund or a law firm, and instead of hiring like maybe 5 entry-level lawyers or entry-level analysts, now you might be able to do the same amount of work with just 2 of them. And so, yeah, they'll make your firm a lot more profitable and a lot more efficient. And even there might be higher salaries for the few people who still have their jobs. But that means 3 other people who otherwise would be employed in a high-skilled profession that requires a college degree or above doesn't have a job. And you're starting to see, especially as the cost structure due to years of inflation the last couple of years being elevated for a lot of businesses, and companies are going to need to cut costs and maintain their earnings. They're experimenting with AI to not necessarily fire their existing workforce, but to stop hiring the next generation. And that's where I think that this gap is coming from. So that's kind of the first challenge, and this is the part I don't really have a good answer to. What is the timeline of jobs that are going to be disrupted, and how safe is any given profession? I generally don't recommend people trying to game what they want to do for a career. And I think you and I are both examples of some people like this, based on what, like, I don't know, the Wall Street Journal or the Harvard Business Review or the Financial Times tells you, like, are the hot places to be. Like, there's this thing called the Harvard Business Graduate Indicator, like the industry that is popular among, like, Harvard Business School graduates to get jobs is often the one that has a bust 2 or 3 years later. They're kind of too late to chase the party. Like, you can't build a career chasing the hot thing, because often by the time you get there, it might not be that anymore. And if it is still that, you might not like what you're doing. And, like, I know plenty of people just through my own life experiences and business experience who pick a career based on they perceive as stable or a lot of growth, but they're like, what the hell am I doing this? I hate every day of my life. And that's not sustainable. You will burn out. You'll probably binge spend to make it harder to accomplish your savings goals. And, like, they'll eventually show up in the quality of your work, and it will make you, when it is time for replacements in that sector, be more at risk of it, in my opinion. So what I do recommend to people is kind of a Venn diagram that goes 3 ways. You got to figure out 3 core things. And I recommend for a young person to go to a place with no internet, maybe like a campsite, maybe like a beach cottage, or wherever that there's not internet, not many distractions from your away and far, like a few hours drive away from where you live, so you can really focus. And basically be like, what are the things that I can do better than 95 to 99% of people, especially if I have the right credentials and like put the effort to educate myself on it. If you're a younger person who's not fully educated on the field yet, what is something that there is demand for that people already ask me for help with right now? And the third component really is, what is it that gets you excited to wake up early in the morning on a weekday? You need to find something that's an intersection of all 3, because if you fail for the getting up in the early morning when you're going to burn out, if you fail for the demand one, you'll start a business that nobody wants to buy your product or service. Believe me, that's happened to me before in the past. And if you don't have the first one, you're not going to be able to compete because there'll be too many people better than you at your job. So you got to find what the intersection of this, and then basically figure out what does that mean for where you're going to be when you're 40 or 50, and then look at where people who are at that level, at the end point are, see what their paths are, and then work your steps backwards. Like, most people do the opposite. They try to figure out what's the highest paying job or the most stable job right away, and they keep doing that on a few job hops, and then by the time they're like in their mid-30s, they're like, what the hell am I doing with my life?